For 20 years, I took the fall for the fake heiress. Now I'm being forced to take her place again, this time to marry a blind man. A man of purine energy, cursed to be a walking disaster, whose harsh fate supposedly killed off his entire family. Later, when the fake heiress faced a deadly ordeal, they brought in a master magician to try and make me her scapegoat once more. But halfway through the life-swapping ritual, the charlatan's face went pale with terror. "I can't swap this fate," he stammered. "She's got friends in the underworld." I stepped out to buy a roasted chicken, and by the time I got back, my master was lying on his bed, with more air leaving his body than coming in. As he was dying, he desperately pushed a perfectly preserved jade pendant into my hand. With what seemed like his last ounce of strength, he managed to say a few words. "Grace, you're the Lu's real daughter." The Lu family. I knew the name. They were the richest family in Jiangcheng. They lived in the lap of luxury, even their dog's collar was probably gold-plated. Wait, what? Then why did I end up stranded on this rundown mountain? The thought made me eye my master with suspicion. Could this old geezer be a human trafficker? But just then, as if hit by a final burst of energy, he sat bolt upright and slapped me on the head. Seriously? I'm barely dead and you're already turning on me? Would a lifetime of playing carrots and cabbage to keep you safe really tarnish your good name? Hey, wait a minute, I'm not dead yet. My master shot me a fierce glare. I clutched my head, whining pitifully. "Master, I'm sorry, master." A bitter, cynical sneer crossed his wrinkled face. "Your fate was swapped with hers. You took on all her disasters. Just think about all the bad luck you've had since you were a kid, and you'll get it." He stared out the window and suddenly started muttering to himself. "Ha! What do those mere mortals know of an immortal's work? Just the merit I earned from raising you is enough to grant me a place among the gods. You think I'm dying? What a joke. Who would want to stay alive when you could be a god? An immortal envoy is coming to pick me up soon, so I probably don't have much time. Let me tell you, you're a big deal, and this jade pendant is crucial." Before he could finish, the old man closed his eyes for good. I was too stunned to speak, clutching the jade pendant tightly in my hand. "Would you just fucking finish your sentence?" I held the pendant, completely at a loss. My life had been one disaster after another. The roof would collapse while I was sleeping, I'd step in dog crap the moment I left the house, and a fire once broke out in my classroom mid-lesson. So after all those years of rotten luck, this was the truth. I looked at my master's body, wanting to cry but having no tears left. "Then why didn't you tell me sooner?" Hold on. Did that old man just say that simply raising me was enough to make him a god? I seriously considered desecrating his corpse. In the end, I buried my master's body on the hill behind our home. I knelt before his grave, lit 3 incense sticks, and bowed my head 3 times before heading down the mountain. When he was alive, he would often sit here, gazing at the widow's temple in the distance. He raised me for 20 years after all. Whatever his reasons, I was grateful. And now, my mind was made up. I would use the skills my master taught me to take back everything that belongs to me. The Lu family estate was even grander than I had imagined, as dazzling and opulent as the Louvre. I got straight to the point. My first words were, "Hello, I'm your biological daughter. We can do a DNA test if you don't believe me." Mr. and Mrs. Lu wore blank expressions, but readily took me to the hospital. When the results confirmed I was indeed their biological daughter, I naively thought they'd hug me, crying their eyes out and wailing, "Our daughter. We're so sorry we let you suffer out there for so many years." But the reality was this. Mr. and Mrs. Lu looked me over from head to toe again, as if sizing up a con artist, and finally gave a slight wave of their hands. "Well, since you're back, I guess we're a family now. This is your sister, Violet. While she isn't our biological child, we've raised her for decades and have long considered her our own." Only then did I notice the beautiful girl, about my age, standing beside them. Violet's bright eyes sparkled as she smiled and walked up to me. "Sister? Welcome home." I scoffed internally. So much for those novels where the real heiress returns, and the parents furiously kick the fake one out. That was all a lie. My biological parents coolly dropped a final line. "All right, the maid will show you to your room. Go get settled. We're having a welcome dinner for you tonight. Don't be late." Then they left. The only person who showed me a shred of warmth was the fake heiress herself. Violet held my hand, feigning intimacy. "Don't worry, sister. I'll take good care of you." If I hadn't read so many web novels, I might have actually believed her. The maid led me to the most remote corner of the mansion. She opened the door to a dusty old room. "You can stay here. It's quiet, out of the way." I took a deep breath and stepped inside. It wasn't huge, nor was it as lavish as I'd imagined, but it was still a step up from my life on the mountain. I turned to see the maid had already left. She didn't even give me a chance to say thank you, as if she was afraid of being associated with me. Fine. I wasn't here to make friends anyway. The journey had been long, and as soon as I lay down on the bed, I fell asleep. I woke up just in time for the dinner. I changed my clothes and was about to head out when I heard Violet knocking on my door. "Sister, the dinner is about to start. Mom and Dad hate it when people are late." I answered and immediately went out. Violet took my arm again, making small talk. "I heard you grew up on a mountain. Do you know how to use modern gadgets? Here, let me teach you. This glowing brick is called a phone." I could clearly see the malice hidden beneath her innocent smile. She was basically trying to call me an idiot. I gave a cold smile and looked at her as if she were the fool. "I bet you thought a phone was a glowing brick when you were little, right, sis? Did Mom and Dad have to explain it to you just as patiently?" Violet's smile froze for a second, but her expression remained arrogant. Then her hand slipped, and the $1 million watch on her wrist accidentally fell into the 2-meter deep swimming pool beside us. Oh no, that was a birthday present from Dad. "Sister, please help me." Honestly, I have no idea how Violet managed to lead me out into the yard when we were supposed to be going to the dining room. In an instant, Violet was already crying a river of tears. She must have practiced her crying technique, tilting her head at a 45-degree angle to the sky, stubbornly holding her tears back. I instinctively glanced at the pool, and then I felt a massive force shove me from behind. Caught off guard, I fell straight into the water. But in that last split second, I grabbed a fistful of Violet's hair. A high-pitched scream echoed from above. The shriek was so loud it could have come from an alien. The commotion obviously drew a crowd. My parents came running over. In agony, Violet dropped the act. "Let go, you piece of trash," she yelled, her voice crazed. I looked at her hateful face and shrugged. "Let go? Sure." With a sharp tug and a sudden push, Violet clutched the top of her head, where I'd just ripped out a huge chunk of her hair. "Ah, my hair. Glug, glug, glug." But before she could mourn her loss, she plunged headfirst into the pool like a frog. Mr. and Mrs. Liu were frantic, yelling for the maids and butlers to bring a ladder. "Quick! Save my precious Violet first." Violet's wails were pitiful as she threw herself into her father's arms. "Daddy," sobbed, "I was just trying to be nice and get my sister for dinner." But she pushed me into the pool. She must have wanted to drown me, so she could have all the attention in this family for herself. I let out a cold snort. You should think before you speak. I may have lived on a mountain for a long time, but I know what a security camera is. I pointed to the surveillance camera behind me. It should have captured the whole thing from a perfect angle. Violet clammed up instantly, her face pale with fear, blood still trickling down her head. My parents exchanged a look. Then my father spoke, about to call my name before realizing they'd never even asked what it was. So they settled for hey. "Hey, you're the older sister. Can't you just let your younger sister have her way for once? We know you've been through a lot out there, but that's no reason to take it out on your family." I gave them a detached look, knowing that more words would be useless. I pointed at the camera. She pushed me in. "If you don't believe me, check the camera. It must have recorded everything." My father glanced at the camera, and then feigned anger. "That's enough. That camera is broken. It's being repaired. You bullied your sister and now you won't even admit it. No dinner for you tonight. What a waste preparing a welcome dinner for you." I bit my lip hard. If I hadn't understood the situation before, I certainly did now. This entire family wished I had never come back. Violet shot me a mocking smile over her shoulder before dissolving into tears again, and snuggling into her father's arms. "It's okay, Daddy. Don't be mad." "I'm not mad at my sister. I was furious. I took 2 steps forward, wanting to tear that bitch apart on the spot, but my father stepped in front of her. What do you think you're doing? Violet's head is bleeding. How could I have such a venomous daughter? You've done nothing but cause trouble since you got here. It would have been better if you never came back at all. Forget it. I'm taking Violet to the hospital first. I'll deal with you later. And with that, the whole group fussed over Violet and left. I had to laugh. I was so angry. I wanted to just pack up and leave right then and there. But I couldn't swallow this humiliation. Me, the rightful daughter, just walking away after being treated like this? Fine. I'll play this game with you. After that, they first revoked my privilege of eating at the same table with them. Then, using the excuse that Violet was traumatized from the fall and needed quiet to recover, they made me move out of the Lou mansion and into a shabby little hotel 200 meters across the street. To maintain their public image, the only kindness they showed me was having a maid deliver 3 meals a day. It was like they kicked me out, but not completely. I get it. For these wealthy families, appearances are everything. They were afraid that if they threw me out, I'd run my mouth and ruin their reputation. Besides, money was no object to them. Since they didn't have to see me every day, they didn't mind spending a little to keep me housed. It was laughable. Did they really think I'd care about their scraps? I was the heir to my master's fortune-telling arts. I could make money doing just about anything. The simplest way. Other people play scratch-offs, I see the winning numbers. Other people play the lottery, I fill in the winning numbers. With money, what kind of revenge couldn't I get? Besides, my master was now a god, probably watching me from the heavens. How could I live so miserably? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I decided to head to the lottery shop next door, won a few $1,000, and treated myself to a nice meal. For the next few months, I set up a small stall to tell fortunes and bought a few lottery tickets here and there. Life was pretty good. Just as I was getting ready to leave the hotel and buy a small villa for myself, Mr. and Mrs. Liu showed up, carrying bags of gifts as if they were there to sincerely apologize. Grace, we were wrong about you before. The security camera really was broken that day, but we believe you. It was all Violet's fault. Their words stunned me. Bringing up something from 3 months ago? Are you city folk even more old-fashioned than me? Haven't you ever heard the saying? My father looked confused. What saying? A late apology is worth less than dirt. His mouth twitched, and I could tell he wanted to explode, but my mother grabbed his arm, pulled him behind her, and took out a bank card. Grace, let's not talk about what happened. Here's $2 million. Consider it a small token of our apology. We hope it can make up for things. Free money. Of course I took it. You'd have to be an idiot to turn down cash. Seeing me take the money, the smile on my mother's face grew warmer. I knew she was about to get to the real point. Whatever. I wouldn't be tricked again. Your mother wants to arrange a marriage for you. The man's prospects are quite good. He's a handsome young man, but his eyesight isn't the best. As for his family, it's small, no complicated in-law drama, all very down-to-earth people. This was an engagement arranged by your grandfather many years ago. The time has come, and we hope you'll honor it. Your grandfather's spirit in heaven will surely be pleased. Yeah, I got it. Eyesight isn't the best. He's blind. Handsome young man. A handsome blind guy. Family is down to earth. A handsome but poor blind guy. Small family. Parents are dead, he's all alone. A handsome, poor and cursed blind guy whose fate kills everyone around him. And this is what you call good prospects? As for my grandfather's spirit in heaven, good thing I was cautious. I formed a hand seal and did a quick divination to see the full story. This engagement was originally for Violet. But would the precious princess of the Liu family ever agree to marry a blind man? Of course not. I snorted. No wonder these two showed up at my door in the middle of the night to apologize. I didn't even need to be told. Violet must have been at home, crying and throwing tantrums, threatening to kill herself. She must have pushed Mr. and Mrs. Liu into a corner, leaving them no choice but to come to me and try to sweet-talk me into a trap. I stayed silent for a moment, then began another divination, this time on the handsome, cursed blind guy. But after just a few seconds, I frowned. This man wasn't just of pure energy, a walking disaster cursed to kill his family. Most importantly, the divination showed that he was no longer among the living. Holy crap! Was this engagement actually a ghost marriage? I stared hard into my parents' eyes. I'm their daughter, for God's sake. Are they really going to treat me like an enemy? Their faces were plastered with smiles, their fawning intentions painfully obvious. I frowned and couldn't help but ask, is this guy alive? My mother burst out laughing. What a thing to say, child. Would we really set you up with a dead person? Spit, 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 don't say such unlucky things. Besides his eyesight, there's nothing wrong with him. My father chimed in from the side. Yes, you've just been spending too much time on your phone, filling your head with crazy ideas. I laughed coldly to myself. I didn't believe a single word they said. I only trust the results of my own divination. If it wasn't a ghost marriage, there was only one other possibility. The man's fate was too powerful for my skills to read. But how could that be? I'm a talented, diligent, and brilliant student. Besides the color of Yama's underwear, is there anything in this world I can't see? The next afternoon, I was rushed to the arranged coffee shop. I spotted the handsome blind guy, the one whose divination said was already dead, right away. It was hard not to. He was too eye-catching. He looked exactly like Shizuke Fuji from The Prince of Tennis, his eyes never seeming to open. He was calmly sipping his coffee. People around him were taking pictures and videos with their phones. Wow, you don't think that handsome guy is blind, do you? Could you have some compassion for people with disabilities? Don't say it to his face. Is this staged? What blind person comes to a coffee shop by themselves? Come on, coffee shops are classic blind date spots. And look how nicely he's dressed. He's obviously waiting for someone. Maybe. In your dreams. If a guy like that can find a wife, I'll bash my head against a wall. Even though I was just here to see what was going on, being pointed at and talked about by a crowd made my cheeks burn. Despite my thick skin, I gritted my teeth and pushed my way toward him. Excuse me, please let me through. The crowd turned, a look of surprise on their faces. I could even hear a few people whispering, wondering what my relationship with him was. This is mortifying. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. After finally squeezing through the crowd to get to the blind man, I forced myself to look calm and extended my hand. Hello, my name is Grace. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Hello, Yanqing. His voice was clear, and he naturally and accurately took my hand. Yanqing's face was so perfect it was as if God got jealous and gave him the debuff of being blind. Please sit, Ms. Grace. I nodded. As I sat down, the crowd hadn't dispersed, and people at the surrounding tables kept glancing our way. Yanqing spoke with perfect ease. Are you my fiancé? Your voice sounds kind and gentle. The moment he said that, the guy who claimed a blind man could never find a wife looked like his world had shattered, kneeling on the floor in disbelief. I, on the other hand, had calmed down. I took a sip of coffee. You're very nice too. And handsome. A small smile played on his lips. Oh, you don't mind that I'm blind? I was taken aback, not expecting him to bring up his own vulnerability. No, it's fine. Out of sight, out of mind. The silence was awkward. I took another sip of coffee, pursed my lips, and wondered what to do next. My phone rang. It was my mother. Grace. Have you met him? If you two get along, bring him home so we can plan the wedding. After a few more words with Yanqing, he agreed to come back to the Liu family home with me. I felt like there was an unspoken connection between us, like two old friends meeting again after a long time, without any of the usual awkwardness of a first meeting. Back at the Liu residence, my parents were warmer to me than they'd ever been. My father grandly handed me a card with 20 million on it. More than enough to prepare for the wedding. But Yanqing had a peculiar request. He wanted a completely traditional Chinese wedding. No priest or church ceremony. Instead, he wanted me in a phoenix coronet and embroidered robes, arriving in a sedan chair, with relatives in traditional formal wear to see me off. And the wedding had to take place at night. Faced with this request, the Liu family, though a bit puzzled, agreed without hesitation. After a long day of preparations, I went to the guest room where Yanqing was staying and spoke bluntly. My parents don't like me, so our wedding might be a bit quiet. Actually, if you feel forced into this, we can call it off anytime. I'm not forced. Yanqing cut me off. He reached out, his hand fumbling in the air for a moment before finding mine. He patted the back of my hand gently, his voice soft. I have a lot of people on my side. You won't feel lonely. It's just that they're a bit otherworldly, so they can only come at night. I looked at him, confused, and almost blurted out. Don't you have, isn't your family gone? Yanqing's expression didn't change. Friends. Just friends. I frowned, a seed of doubt planted in my mind. What kind of friends could a blind man have? It wasn't until the wedding day that I truly understood what he meant by a lot of friends. The Liu family was a major player in the business world and naturally had many connections. But they kept a low profile, deliberately blocking any news about the wedding because they didn't want to reveal that I was their daughter. As a result, none of the big shots showed up. The wedding venue was empty, save for the few members of the Liu family, their maid, and me and Yanqing. Looking at the desolate scene, I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Our wedding, with no one to celebrate with us. After we bowed to each other, Violet walked up to me, a smirk on her face. Congratulations, sister. As she hugged me, she lowered her voice and whispered in my ear. Congrats on wasting the rest of your life with a blind man. A shiver ran down my spine, and I whipped my head around to look at her. Before I could even slap her, an arm blocked my way. I looked up and saw it was Yanqing. He faced Violet, his tone unfriendly. I'm sure my dear sister-in-law is unaware that her new brother-in-law has a mental condition and can't handle being provoked. Violet froze for a second, then a venomous smile twisted her lips. Fine, brother-in-law. Since it's your wedding day, I'll give you face. But let me be clear. As soon as this is over, you two are moving out. I don't want to see you in this house. What a joke of a wedding. You really think you're somebody. As she left, she deliberately knocked over a teacup, earning a displeased look from Mr. and Mrs. Liu. I stared at her coldly. She couldn't even keep up the act until the wedding was over? Whatever. I was about to drop my act too. Grace, let me help you back to our room. Yanqing's voice sounded beside me. Looking at his face, I suddenly realized that Yanqing had never once opened his eyes. Yet his steps were steady, much better than the old man who was always tripping over his own feet. This was a blind man? A hint of suspicion grew in my mind as I let him lead me back to the room. Yanqing gently held me in a hug. Grace, I told you I'd give you an unforgettable wedding. Wait for me to come back. My heart pounded in my chest. I was so dazed I didn't even notice when he left. Then, a wave of worry washed over me. He should be entertaining guests right now, but who would even come? Was he just going to stand out there all day? Not long after, my parents also left, leaving the wedding eerily quiet. I was about to fall asleep when the hall outside suddenly lit up, bustling with noise and activity. I turned to look outside, and my pupils constricted. There were hundreds of people, all dressed in lavish, expensive clothes, their every move exuding an air of authority. And some of them looked incredibly familiar, like they were straight out of a history book. I wanted to see more, but a crushing pressure made it hard to breathe, and the scene before me began to blur. In the last moment before I lost consciousness, I saw Yanqing slowly raise his hand to the crowd. Today is the day of my wedding. I thank you all for coming from so far away. When he finished speaking, the crowd replied in unison. Congratulations on your wedding, Lord Yan. Did he own a salt factory or something? My brain turned to mush, and my vision went black as I fainted. When I woke up again, it was daylight. My clothes were neat, a clear sign that Yanqing and I had slept fully clothed last night. I thought back to the room full of old men I'd seen last night, and Yanqing acting like some delusional anime character. I let out a long sigh. Unforgettable. Truly unforgettable. I wonder how much he spent to hire all those extras. I looked over at the still sleeping Yanqing, carefully got up, and slipped out of bed. I decided that when he woke up, I was going to demand answers. Why didn't he tell me his family owned a salt factory? Was he planning on playing dumb to get the upper hand? An urgent call from my mother shattered my peaceful morning. Come to the main hall for a discussion. Just you, she said coldly, then hung up. Warily, I went to the main hall, where the Liu family was waiting for me. Violet sat unhappily in a chair, her eyes red and swollen as if she'd just been crying. My father didn't seem to be in a good mood either. Only my mother offered me a smile. Come sit down. How's married life treating you? I shot her a cold glance. Just say what you have to say. Given our relationship, there's no need to waste energy on fake expressions. Violet scoffed and stood behind our parents, a smug look on her face. Judging by your attitude, you must have known about the fate swapping for a while, huh? The truth is, they sent you away themselves all those years ago because your birth chart clashes with this family's, and it would affect our fortune. And look, it's true, isn't it? Ever since you came back, you've thrown this house into chaos. If I hadn't convinced Mom and Dad to let you stay, you'd be an orphan by now. So, sister, it's time for you to repay my kindness. I really don't want to get hit by a car and die so young. So, if you wouldn't mind, please go die for me. At this point, even an idiot would have understood. Violet had foreseen that she was about to face a deadly fate, and she wanted me to be her scapegoat. I shot to my feet, my mind racing to find a way out, but a wave of dizziness hit me. My limbs felt weak, as if something was draining my life force. I looked up and saw a Taoist priest with a 2-foot-long goatee, drawing something with cinnabar ink. Only when he was finished did I see that it was a life-swapping talisman. My head buzzed, and it felt like countless people were talking around me. I knew I couldn't collapse. I bit my tongue hard to stay conscious. The priest sneered. A mere mortal wouldn't regain consciousness this quickly. Your constitution is quite impressive. But it's all pointless. Although I could open my eyes, my body was still paralyzed. I looked up and saw a yellow talisman floating in the air. Violet's face twisted with malice, her laughter growing more wild. Oh, sister, just take pity on your little sister. After all, you came from the mountains and married a blind man. Your life is already over. How can you possibly compare to me? Sorry for the inconvenience, but please go die. Mr. and Mrs. Liu stood by the whole time without a word, watching coldly. I took a deep breath and couldn't stop myself from questioning them, my voice sharp. Decades ago, you listened to bad advice and abandoned your own daughter. Did it never occur to you that the person who told you that was lying? A cynical sneer appeared on my mother's face. I don't feel like I was lied to. From the moment you came back, our house has been in constant turmoil. So what if you're our biological daughter? Besides, we've invested all our energy and resources into Violet. We've poured so much money and effort into her. What do you have to compare? What use are you? Talking about blood ties in a wealthy family? How naive. I gritted my teeth lightly. Of course. In the eyes of selfish people like them, only benefits mattered. Things like family affection had long since faded. Do it, Master Taoist. Mr. Liu looked at the charlatan, his eyes filled with respect. The charlatan formed a hand seal, and a vast celestial power descended. A piercing pain shot through my brain, as if my soul was being ripped from my body. The agony made my palms sweat, and it felt like 1,000 needles were stabbing my heart. My vision blurred, but then a moment of clarity washed over me. A loud, piercing scream echoed in my ears. Ah! Who are you? Blood streamed from the charlatan's eyes, nose, and ears. He pointed at me in shock, his body trembling, all traces of his former immortal-like demeanor gone. Mr. and Mrs. Liu panicked and rushed to ask, Master Taoist, what's happening? The charlatan grabbed his bag and ran, shouting as he fled. I can't swap this fate. She's got friends in the underworld. Yama sent his bull-headed and horse-faced demons to drag me back for questioning. I can't stay, I have to run. After the charlatan fled, the intense pain in my head subsided, but my vision was still blurry. I looked out the window. Yanqing seemed to be standing at the main gate, his hands behind his back. Violet had collapsed on the ground in fear. I don't know if it was a trick of the light, but I thought I saw his eyes slowly open, revealing gems as brilliant and captivating as blue sapphires. I pushed myself up and formed a hand seal. In the struggle, I'd remembered a vicious curse I'd read about in one of my master's forbidden books. For a man, he would experience a monthly period, just like a woman. For a woman, her body hair would grow uncontrollably until she resembled a black chimpanzee. Without hesitation, I cast the curse on the 3 members of the Liu family. Mr. Liu seemed to feel something. He immediately clutched his rear, his old face flushing red as he cursed me through a strained expression. You You wretched thing. What have you done to me? No. Before he could finish, he felt a warm gush from below and scrambled to the bathroom. Mrs. Lu looked at her reflection in the glass, seeing her body gradually covered in fuzz. She pulled at her hair, screaming, I don't want to be a gorilla. I don't. You bitch. This is all your fault. If you had just obediently swapped fates with me, none of this would have happened. Violet, who was now halfway to becoming a female gorilla, suddenly lunged at me. Hee, this must be important to you, right? Give it to me. She snatched the jade pendant from my neck and quickly fled. Oh no, I thought. This was the pendant my master gave me before he died. He hadn't finished what he was saying back then, but no matter how I thought about it, that pendant had to be tied to my life. Let's go. We'll get your life back together. Yanqing suddenly swept me up into his arms. He moved with incredible speed, catching up to Violet just as she was about to escape in her car. The second before Violet could slam on the gas and speed away, I quickly opened the passenger door and jumped in. Violet glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Yanqing left behind, which only made her stomp on the accelerator with more force. She laughed maniacally, threatening me. Grace, without that blind bastard to protect you, you're not getting away today. As long as you die in front of me, your life will be mine. Violet sped wildly, driving straight onto a set of train tracks. I was in the passenger seat, and the driver's side was facing away from the oncoming train. That meant the train would hit my side first. The cunning Violet had locked my door. She unbuckled her seatbelt, jumped out of the car, and then locked all the doors and windows, trapping me inside. I tried to grab her, but only managed to snatch the jade pendant back. Violet didn't even bother trying to get the pendant back from me. It doesn't matter. Once you're dead, I can get it back anyway. The train whistle grew louder and louder, its bright headlights nearly blinding me. Violet's smile grew wider. Grace. The speeding train finally slammed into me. In a daze, I thought I saw my master singing Welcome to the Other Side to me. Everything went black. It seemed I really had been hit and killed. I was in a long line, with ghosts in front of me and behind me. Some were covered in blood, with knives still sticking out of them. Others had bullet holes in their heads. Some were burned all over, looking like charcoal briquettes. I suddenly felt scared. First time dying, a little nervous. Help online now. Before I could calm my panic, it was my turn at the front of the line. The judge of the underworld looked up at me, then his eyes shot wide open in shock. Lord Yen, what brings you back? I froze, suddenly realizing he was talking to the ghost behind me. I turned around and came face to face with a familiar person. Yanqing was dressed in a sharp black outfit, his dark hair tied back in a high ponytail by a jade crown, flowing as if in a non-existent wind. He opened his eyes, revealing a pair of deep blue irises. Send this one back, he said, pointing at me. The judge frowned, looking troubled. My lord, that's against the rules. Her time on earth is up. Her lifespan has been exhausted. Yanqing's expression darkened, and a murderous aura began to radiate from him. Judge, are you trying to get yourself reincarnated as a human? The judge shuddered. What sane ghost would want to go back to being human? He quickly nodded and bowed. As you command. I'll release her. I'll release her right away. With a wave of his hand, a ghostly wind began to swirl. I really wanted to ask Yanqing what was going on, but he had already vanished. My body started to float. Just as I was about to leave the underworld, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. Master! I shouted. My master, who was having a drink with old lady Meng, slowly looked up. Seeing it was me, he waved excitedly. Disciple, you croaked too? I quickly pulled out the jade pendant he had given me on his deathbed and asked, Master, what is this thing really for? My master squinted, looked at it for a couple of seconds, and answered firmly, Oh that? It's my most valuable possession. I was afraid if the Lu family kicked you out and you had nowhere to go, you could sell it for some cash. With a sudden flash of white light, I found myself back in the real world. The train had still crashed into the car Violet was driving. But Violet, who should have been watching from the sidelines, was now lying mangled in the passenger seat, her life hanging by a thread. Mrs. Lu clawed at the twisted car window, her cries heart-wrenching. Violet, Violet, Mommy can't live without you. Wake up, please wake up. You were our family's lucky star. How could you die? Yanqing had shown up at some point. Mr. Lu was kneeling at his feet, pleading desperately. Immortal, I know you're an immortal. Please save my daughter. The engagement was originally meant for Violet. I was blind not to recognize your divine status. I deserve to die. If you want to take a life as punishment, take mine. Seeing that Yanqing was unmoved, he scrambled over and grabbed my clothes. Grace, yes. Grace, Daddy remembers your name. Please, I'm begging you, ask Yanqing for help. If he could save you from that Taoist priest, he can definitely save your sister. If you get your sister back, Daddy will be your slave for life. I'll give you all my shares in the company, please. She is your parents' life's work. We can't let her die for nothing. I found it all incredibly ironic. Watching the bull-headed and horse-faced demons of the underworld approaching slowly from a distance, I coldly pried his hands off me. Sorry, Mr. Lu, I can't help you. You never publicly acknowledged me as your daughter. Legally speaking, we're not even related. By now, I knew without a doubt that Yanqing was the legendary master of the underworld. He wasn't pretending to be blind anymore. His deep blue eyes were vivid and alive. He pulled me into his arms protectively and said to Mr. Lu with cold sarcasm, "The marriage contract I arranged was with the true daughter of the Lu family. This imposter, Violet, who stole her place, has had nothing to do with me from the very beginning. As for the fated death in Violet's destiny, it was nothing more than her own doing." Mr. Lu seemed to realize something and slumped to his knees in defeat. He was right. If Violet hadn't stolen my jade pendant, if she hadn't targeted and framed me, she never would have encountered this deadly fate. Tears streamed down his old face as he wept bitterly. For what, I couldn't say. Yanqing and I left. A few months later, I heard that Mrs. Lu, unable to bear the pain of losing her daughter, took her own life with pills. Mr. Lu, having lost his wife and daughter in his later years, suffered a stroke overnight. The Lu family's relatives seized the opportunity to divide up the family fortune and had him committed to a psychiatric hospital. It's said that during Mr. Lu's few moments of lucidity, he would cry out, "I have another daughter. Her name is Grace. Please, can you help me find her?" When I heard about this, I just smiled faintly. Go ahead and look. There are thousands of Graces in the world, but he'll never find this one again. After all the dust settled, Yanqing and I left the hustle and bustle of the city behind and started a fortune-telling live stream from our little mountain home. But it wasn't quite what I expected. Why are all the comments from his admirers? Wow. I'm here for Yanqing. Is he not on the stream today? Yeah, where is Lord Yan? Bring him out. Don't you dare hide him away. I face-bombed in exasperation. I sent him to the back hill to do some farming. You won't be seeing him today. The comments section exploded. Wow, Yanqing looks so delicate. He knows how to farm too? Boo-hoo, you're a cruel landowner. You're using someone that handsome for farm work? I'm so mad. The streamer has no idea how good she has it. I laughed, shaking my head. Fortune-telling, fate reading, feng shui analysis. Do good deeds, ask no questions about the future. Anyone want a reading? The comments were once again filled with sighs. The streamer is actually pretty accurate, but her prices are too high. 3,000 for one session is my whole month's salary. Yanqing is cheaper. He doesn't charge anything, he does it for free. I glared at the comments. You people know nothing. I'm the true heir of a divine fortune teller. He's an imposter. The comments paused for a beat, then the screen filled with ha ha ha. Just then my phone alarm went off. Oh crap, I forgot to bring him his lunch. The streamer is signing off now because she has to bring her husband his lunch. I smiled and got up, and the comment section was once again flooded with people complaining about being hit with a surprise dose of public affection. I ignored them, grabbed the lunchbox, and headed to the back hill. Yanqing was busy there, occasionally wiping the sweat from his brow. I looked at this scene and found it strangely amusing. If people knew that the king of the underworld was farming for me in the mortal realm, I wonder what they would think. Time to eat, Yanqing. Yanqing wiped the sweat from his forehead, a smile playing on his lips. He wrapped an arm around my waist and pulled me in for a kiss. Impeach. His magnetic voice whispered in my ear. Does my lady recall that on our wedding night, there was some business we didn't get to? I shyly pulled the blanket over my head. And what followed was Yan Qing's passionate kiss. A room full of ripples. The end.